Hare Krishna. We hope you are all well, and we welcome you to our evening katha. We want to thank you for all your prayers. We got news that Brajahari, the wonderful president of Juhu, Bombay, may be getting out of the hospital very soon. He got COVID. So we thank you very much for all your prayers. But we should praise all the devotees to remain safe. I just heard my dear god sister Krishna Nandini from America has finally given up her fight for cancer and entered into hospice care. So we can pray for her also. Very wonderful, sweet devotee. So today we're going to go next door to Bandirvan. There's Sridam, and then we'll go to another forest, Balelvan. Sridam, of course, is not one of the main forests of Braj. It's a sub-forest, but we'll go there. It's a very wonderful place. So today we'll sing a very beautiful song, one of our favorite songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You all know Jeev Jago. Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago, Gaura Chanda Bole, Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago, Gaura Chanda Bole, Kota Nidra Jamaya, Pisachira Kole, Kota Nidra Jamaya, Pisachira Kole, Bajiva Bolia Ese, Santara Bitare, Vijibolia Ese, Santara Bitare, Bulia Rohile Tume, Avidya Rabore, Bulia Rohile Tume, Avidya Rabore, Tomare Goite Mami, Hoinu Avatara, Tomari Loite Ami, Hoinu Avatara, Ami Deena Bandhu Ara, Keache Tomara, Ami Deena Bandhu Ara, Keache Tomara, Enichio Sadi Maya, Nashibaro Lagi, Enichio Sadi Maya, Nashibaro Lagi, Harinama Mahamandra, Lao Tumi Magi, Harinama Mahamandra, Lao Tumi Magi, Bhakti Vinoda Prabhu, Charane Poriya, Bhakti Vinoda Prabhu, Charane Poriya, Sri Harinama Mantra, Lailo Magiya, Sri Harinama Mantra, Lailo Magiya, Jiva Jago, Jiva Jago, Gaura Chanda Bole, Jiva Jago, Jiva Jago, Gaura Chanda Bole, Kota Nidra Jamaya, Pisachira Kole, Kota Nidra Jamaya, Pisachira Kole, Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai. So we welcome you all to our evening katha. Today we're going to go to From Bandirvan, we'll leave to Sridam Bandhu and Balelvan, also known as Srivan, also known as Bilvavan. And we thank you for all your prayers, because we got news today that our dear president of Juhu, Radharas Bihari Temple, Brajahari, is now out of danger. He may be discharged very soon from the hospital. So we thank you for all your wonderful prayers, and we should pray. There's many devotees in difficult situations, so we should all pray for them. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandigam Adadana Srinandantai Vridam Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padambujo Dulisyam Janma Janmani Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. So yesterday we were in Bandirvan. One nice thing about Bandirvan, it's a very peaceful, quiet place. Behind the village we can find forests just like Vrindavan forest. So many pilu trees are there, heath trees are there. Heath is a special creeper that grows in Braj, very thick creeper, a very strong creeper. But it's got very heavy, short, or long, rather quite long, curved, what I meant was, thorns. And it climbs in the trees. And in fact, there's, in one branch of Nimbarka Sampradaya, they tell one of their acharyas, Nagababa, he was out picking flowers for his deities of Radha and Krishna, and then a big jata on top of his head. And somehow it got stuck in the heath. So many people tried to come and help. Oh, Baba, let me help. I said, no, that person for whom I was picking flowers, only he has done this, so only he can let me free. Then Lord Shiva and Parvati appeared. They said, let us get you free, Baba. He said, no, I wasn't picking flowers for you. Then Lakshmi Narayan appeared. He said, no, I wasn't picking flowers for you, cannot help. Even Rukmini Dwarkadish appeared. He said, no, I wasn't picking flowers for you, you cannot help. So finally, many places in Braj where Nimbarka Sampradaya, you see this picture, Radharani standing there with a little tray with some incense and some fruits, and Krishna himself is untangling Baba's jata from the thorns of the heath tree. And we'll find in Kartik time, especially, we find lots of Gunja Lata. We all know the Gunja Mala that is very dear to Giriraj, little red and black beads. They ripen in Kartik time, end of Kartik. And somehow or other, Bandirvan is in that little forest behind the village. So many creepers are there. But we only find them especially where the heath and other type of thorn trees are there, because the leaves are very tasty. And I've been told it's very good for digestion, very tasty. Just like people from the West, they know there's a little type of breath freshener called Sensen. It has almost a licorice type taste, like that, very sweet. So the animals love it, so it can only grow where there's lots of creepers. And you'll see little bunches of they're like little tiny, not tiny, but small pea pods, like that. And this time of year, they come in a little bunch like this, almost like a Christmas ball, and they break open, and you see all the little red and black berries exposed in a whole big ball like this. And the little boys in the village, they also know how to get them, and they come trying to sell them to all the Prikrama devotees. So from Bandirvan, first we missed one forest. It's just up the road. when I first went there, there was nothing there. Just a little Shiva temple, a little Hanuman temple. Now some Babas made nice little Radha Krishna temple, just right on the road. Nothing much is there, called Balelvan.
You're talking about, you forgot to talk about Shamtala?
We're going there. So, Balelvan is a very small forest, but this is where Krishna was, one of the first places he was herding the calves. Because before he was Gopal, he was Vatsapal, taking care of the calves. So one day he and Krishna and Balaram and all the cowherd boys were in the Balelvan forest, and one demon came. He had been sent by Kans, named Vatsasura. So he took the form of a Vatsa, a calf. Because Vatsa means calf. Just like in very Sanskritized Hindi we saw in the Mahabharata, always when they're addressing some younger person, they say, hey Vats. Because naturally when you see a calf, then automatically Vatsalya Ras comes in your heart. So we address the younger person as Vats. So Krishna winked at Balaram, they both understood. So Krishna, pretending like he didn't know the demon was there, very carefully he came around, just wandering amongst the calves. Suddenly he found himself directly behind that Vatsasura. He grabbed him by his hind legs and he swung him around and around and around just by the centrifugal forces. Atma left his body and he threw him into a tall, Bhagavatam says, Kapita tree. I just looked it up, it's actually a bale tree. And that bale tree came crashing down and all the boys were very happy. They all said, sadhu, sadhu. All the demigods began to shower flowers. Everyone was very happy. And especially the boys were happy since this bale tree had fallen over. Now, because the bale fruits were very high up, now they were easily gotten. Because bale fruits, they're very pithy type of fruit, very hard back shell, and inside this nice orange pulp is there that's very, very tasty, especially nice for making bale juice, which you have to make it a little quite thin, because as the time goes on it gets thicker and thicker. If you make it quite thick, then you'll find that it has become quite thick. So now there's just a little Hanuman temple there, a little Shiva temple. This is Bhadreshwar Mahadev, a very ancient deity of Lord Shiva is there. And some Baba now has made a nice little shrine of Radha and Krishna. So we go back to Balelvan. Now we have to walk through the fields. In the distance we see so many kunjas. We walk through the fields and we enter into these kunjas. This is called Sridam, also known as Shamban. This is also just a part of Balelvan. And as we go through the trees, they're all turn out to be pilu trees. But you have to come in the springtime to see the fruits. Little tiny, tiny burgundy colored fruits. Sometimes you'll find white ones, sometimes you'll find pink ones. But mostly burgundy colored fruits that are very, very tasty. They're very favorite of Krishna and Balaram. And dungar trees is there. In the middle of the forest, we see, what do you call those trees with the thorns on the bark? Simul. Or Bhagavatam says Salmali, just like there's one Salmali Dweep. And there's one hellish planet where these Salmali trees are there. And because right out of the bark, these big, heavy thorns come out right out of the bark. And it says in that hellish planet, they tie you to the trunk of that tree and rip your flesh with those thorns. There's a big simul tree there in the springtime. You'll see them with great big red flowers, about this big red flowers. And especially right outside the yoga pit in Mayapur is a big, tall, old, ancient simul tree. And just Mayapur time, that's when the flowers come. And you always see the little Bengali girls with these flowers in their hair. So we see one big, tall simul tree with the thorns coming out. And then we come to a little temple. This temple is known as Bamsivat, because there's a couple of Bamsivats in Braj. We know the most famous one, of course, is in Vrindavan. But there's also a huge banyan tree here. And the Babas tell, of course my hearing isn't so keen, but if you put your head up against a tree and listen, you can hear the music of the rasa dance going on. Because this is one of the main places, Krishna does his rasa dance in many places. This is one of the main places where rasa dance takes place, although it is not very well known to people. A very peaceful place, and all around it is kundas of betel trees and some tall trees. And there's a beautiful temple. Now it's become quite expanded. The Baba who's staying there expanded it very much. So many shrines are there. Even one shrine of Kalki Avatar, for whatever reason, is put there, and beautiful deities of Gaur-Nitai are there. And there's exquisite deities of Sridam. Because our godbrother Rohini Sutta and his wife Gaurangi Priya, they have made these exquisitely beautiful deities. Very rough deity was there of Sridam. Because this is also known as Sridam Van. Because what happened was Sridam, Krishna met Sridam just before he went to Mathura. And he told, I'm just now coming. We've heard this before. And Sridam said, all right, I'm waiting for you here. I won't go anywhere until you come. He said, if I don't come back tonight, then certainly tomorrow I'll come. All right, I'm waiting for you. If not tomorrow, then certainly day after tomorrow, I'm just now coming. And we know Krishna went to Mathura and he never came. And Sridam waited 3-4 days, 5-6 days, 2-3 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, 4 or 5 months. 5,000 years Sridam is waiting there. Actually only 4,500. Because 500 years ago Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came on his Braj Prikrama, he came to Sridam forest, he said, hey Sridam, I'm back. So beautiful deities of Krishna and Balaram are there, and Radha and Krishna are there, Lakshmi Narayan are there, and this wonderful deity of Sridam is there in this forest. Then we wander a little ways down the dusty path before we enter back into another road into the village, and we come to a little kund. Used to be in total disrepair and completely neglected, but this Raj Foundation fixed a very nice geometrical shape to the kund with lots of steps. It's a very old place. Next to it is a forest of tamal trees. You'll see at least 100 tamal trees are there. I never saw so many tamal trees in my life in this place. And this is known as Sham Talao. Talao, of course, is a corruption of Talab. Talab means tank. And around this tank, or actually behind it, if you walk past the kund and go into the forest behind, you're back in one of the original forests of Braj. Just pilu trees and dungar trees, and then there's a type of tree called papri. They grow very, very tall. They don't have so much heavy foliage, but they grow very tall. And just this time of year, these little oval-shaped fruits appear. Not actually fruits, but seeds. They're like in a little brown paper bag, and inside you rip it open. At least the Gurukul boys used to rip them open and eat that little seed. Just the other day, because this is a season where they're drying out now. Our window is filled with them because it was big dust storm, so they all got blown up against the window and stuck between the screen and the edge of the window. The papri trees are there, and all over the place grows this very special plant, because Kartik means it's getting cold, and everybody's getting cold and cough. If you come to Vrindavan for Kartik, this is a famous thing, the Kartik cough, Mangalarti, you listen they're singing, Bibari Shesha Aloka Pravesha. In the background music is but this Basak, if you go across the street from our temple and buy it, it's like 75 rupees for a little bottle of a few capsules. But there it's growing everywhere free, and you boil it once and you boil it a second time, then you put some honey and you drink it, and I found it stops my cold as I say. And it's just suddenly the whole world just disappears, and you see the Vrindavan that you like to see, and eventually if you go further into the forest, you come to the bank of the Jamuna, and there you'll find some real sadhus just living away from everybody on the bank of the Jamuna. Their little thatched huts. And so many peacocks are there. But these sadhus are not the kind that want to be where all the people are so they can collect money. They just want to be away from everyone. And if anybody comes, they're very friendly to you. Very beautiful, wonderful place. So then we wander back out to the main path, and then we catch the road through the village, and then we take our bus to Balelvan. Now, the actual forest is very far away from the main road. Suddenly the road branches off and goes. The left side goes to the Pipa Pool, or the pontoon bridge. Actually, this is one of the closest forests to Vrindavan, because during the hot season, there's a pontoon bridge across the Jamuna. So just from our temple, maybe 5-6 kilometers you can come to, or maybe more. Well, you can get to the road to Balelvan, another 2 kilometers to Balelvan. So 7 kilometers, like that's one of the closest for us. And the road to the right goes off, and you come to a village, and those villages are so small, there's no way to get our bus through. So we have to have a kirtan party, and we go through the small village, begging rotis from everyone. This is very remote villages, so get nice. They make really thick rotis in the villages. We pass through 2 villages, and finally we come to Balelvan. And as we're doing kirtan down the road, we look across, we can see the Jamuna. Other side of the Jamuna, we see a vision of Vrindavan that we never see. Because once you're inside Vrindavan, you can't see much around. But from the other side of the Jamuna, you see all these beautiful temple towers. It looks like a spiritual world on the other side of the Jamuna. Of course, in old days, all we saw was temple towers. Now they're all dotted. Between the temple towers, we see so many mobile towers. But it's an amazing view. You can see old Madan Mohan temple, you can see Gopinath temple, you can see Radha Govinda Dev, you can see Keshi Ghat, you can see all these places, and it's a vision, especially in Kartik, it's a little misty. So it's a very mystical vision of Vrindavan that we never get to see, because we're in Vrindavan, because of all the buildings you can't see, but outside you can see. It's a spiritual wonderland with temple towers everywhere. Then we come to Balelvan. Now Balelvan is 3 names. One is Srivan, one is Bilvavan. Bilva is the Sanskrit for Bale, and of course Balelvan. And bale fruit we just described, very hard green fruit with wonderful orange pulp inside that's very wonderful. Just eat it like that, or you can make a nice juice with it. And since the skin of that fruit is very thick and hard, in fact in English it's called wood apple. The English for bale is wood apple. So there the cowherd boys used to go, and they would, this very sweet place right on the bank of the Jamuna. Now we can see Jamuna right near us. And they used to take the bale fruits and play with them, throwing them to one another and playing ball with these fruits. Now there's hardly any bale trees there, but still beautiful natural forests, and some of the tallest papri trees. We were just describing the papri trees. Some of the tallest papri trees are there. A few tamal trees are there. And used to be tiny broken down temple there of Lakshmiji. Then somebody fixed it up a bit. It was just like, you see all the little shops across the street. It was just like that, just another, not as fancy, but just another shop was Lakshmi Devi's temple. But instead they made that the outside wall, and they made a large temple for Lakshmiji. But recently, the Braj Vikas Trust, they made a marvelous palace there, beautiful palace. They expanded they moved the wall back and made a nice wall, and a beautiful special people tree is there, has a naturally formed Ganesh on the side of the tree. The villagers have painted it orange so you can see it. Very special place. So this is also known as Srivan, because we just mentioned Lakshmi, because she's doing penances and austerities. Because even the wife of Vaikuntapati, Lord Narayan, she wants to enter the rasa dance of Sri Krishna. We were discussing this other day about Gopal Bhatt in Srirangam. That unless one becomes a follower of the cowherd damsels of Braj, then they cannot enter the Rasa Lila. Because she's still carrying this abhiman that I am the wife of Vaikuntapati. So the cowherd girls, they're making cow patties, they're milking cows, we can't imagine Lakshmiji doing these types of things. Even for ourselves, I've milked cows before. My daughter taught me how to milk cows. As in, she was one time, there was a Gurukul in, where is that place? I can't remember just now. After it left Lake Huntington, it went to State College or someplace. Anyway, and she would be there milking the cow. You squeeze at the very base of the teat of the cow like this, and then cut it off so it doesn't go backwards, and you squeeze down like that. And she was telling me that, Pita, do you know that on the very tip of the teat of the cow there's a lotus flower print? And I said, really? I never saw. And she said, look. And I went like that, and she turned the teat around, and she squirted right in my face. So we can't imagine Lakshmiji milking cows. And we can't imagine the gopis, they're all leaving their husbands. She has to leave her husband, Lord Narayan, to associate with Krishna in the rasa dance. So only if you become... So she's still there. Sometimes the pujari will lift the cloth. You can see 2 hands are sitting like this, and 2 hands are like this with lotus flowers. And 2 hands are sitting, she's sitting in meditation like this. And just beside her is a little deity of Krishna. Very cute little deity, bluish Krishna is there. Now they tell the story, because she's there for hundreds of years trying to enter the rasa dance, performing penance and austerities. So one time, Krishna, he told the gopis that I'm going to go across the river and see Lakshmiji. So he went across the Jamuna, and he came there to Balelvan. He found Lakshmiji in the middle of the forest performing austerities. But she was wrapped in her meditation. So Krishna, because she thought this is big Lakshmiji, so he came just in a little bal roop, little boy. He sat down beside Lakshmi. She was ignoring him. So he began to cry. Now Lakshmiji is a woman. A woman cannot tolerate a child crying. So immediately Lakshmiji came out of her meditation, and she saw this little boy there crying. And we already described this place. This village is so small, our bus can't get through on the road here. So we can imagine 5,000 years ago how much tiny villages were there. So where was she going to get anything to feed? Somehow some villager gave her some rice, some other villager gave her some dal. She mixed it all together and made kitri. And she fed Lala kitri. So if you come there, you always ask the Baba to give you some kitri prasad if any is left over. In fact, because of this has happened in the month of Pos. After Kartik, there's 1 month, and the next month after that is called Pos, and it happened to be on a Thursday. But nobody knows which Thursday. So every Thursday in Pos, they have a big kitri mela there. Believe it or not. Some businessmen come and they dig these big pits on the ground, they dig these big karais, and they're cooking very hot, not only hot, but spicy hot kitri. And they set up a whole big melas there. You won't believe it. All of a sudden there's little village Ferris wheels and all types of games and so many things, and all the jalebi wallas are there and the aloo tikki wallas are there. A whole big mela starts, the merry-go-rounds, everything is there. They have special way to take darshan of Lakshmiji because a huge crowd is there. So every year they have this kitri mela, and everybody passes out kitri to everyone. Even some years, there's even 1 year we came there, it was the 5th Thursday, because every once in a while Kartik host Maina has 5 Thursdays instead of 4. So every Thursday there's this big kitri mela there where the Brishvasis come to give their association to Lakshmiji in hopes that she'll become a follower of the cowherd damsels of Braj. So we're very fortunate. How is it that we've been able to enter into Vrindavan? Because we're followers of the most dear Brishvasi. Because Krishna is told by his own lotus mouth in Bhagavad Gita that person who spreads my this knowledge of me throughout the world, there's no one more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So we're following the most dear Brajavasi Srila Prabhupada. This is why we've been allowed to enter into Vrindavan. We should always remember this is our only qualification. Just like I remember first time I came to Mayapur, there was nothing there. Even the long building wasn't there, just the original building. It wasn't finished. We were living on the cement dust on the roof of the Lotus building. That was all that was there. And somehow a few life members managed to make it there. So I guess it's a British way of asking the question, but they always use, and what is your qualification? Because in America we'll say, what type of degree do you have? But I guess in Britain they say, and what is your qualification? And I would look at them blankly. So I don't have any qualification. My only qualification is Srila Prabhupada. So that's our only qualification is Srila Prabhupada, that we're there in this place. So usually it's, since we have to walk 2.5 kilometers from where we left the buses, we have to walk 2.5 kilometers into the forest of Balelvan. It's too much to walk all the way back, so because right on the bank there is the Jamuna, right on the back side of the temple is Jamuna. We have boats come from Vrindavan, and we go floating down the Jamuna having Harinama on the boat. We have 6 or 7, 8, sometimes 10 boats, 12 people on each boat, and we push out in the Jamuna, and we have our sound system, and we have our kirtan. One time we were very fortunate, we had Vyasaki with us, so we had Vyasaki kirtan floating down the Jamuna, and sometimes we just stop the kirtan, because there you're out in the middle of the farmland, and if you just stop the kirtan, you suddenly realize that you're never in a place where there's no sound. But here it breaks your ears. The silence is so loud, your eardrums will break. The only sound you hear is the boatmen, their oars. A completely soundless place. We're never in the cities we live in, always surrounded by sound. Suddenly you find there's no sound. If we're lucky, it's not that time of year when they're irrigating the fields. Otherwise, many times we've become quiet. Now we can hear as they're pumping water into. But sometimes it's just so peaceful, and we watch the skyline of Vrindavan coming up on us. And at the very end, we sing Jamunastakam of Srila Rupa Goswami. One of my favorite verses describes Vrindavan so nicely. Ramyatira Rambamana Gokadamba Bhushita Divyaganda Bhakadamba Pusparaja Rushita Nandasunu Bhakta Sangam Abhinandani Mam Punatu Sarvadara Binda Bandhu Nandani Mam Punatu Sarvadara Binda Bandhu Nandani. I think most of you know Sarva by now. Sarva means all. Sarva Arabinda. Now I'm very surprised many devotees don't know the meaning of Arabinda, although we sing every morning. Bande Garovsri Charan Arabindam. Charan, of course, we know means feet. So Arabindam obviously means lotus. Sarva Darabinda Bandhu. Just like I am Deena Bandhu. Bandhu means friend. So who's the friend of all the lotus flowers? I'll give you a hint. When moon will rise, every lotus will close her face. She doesn't want to see the moon. But as soon as sun will rise, every lotus will open with a big smile to see the sun. So the friend of all the lotus flowers is the Jamuna. The sun. The friend of all the lotus flowers is the sun. Sarvadara Binda Bandhu Nandini. Just like my daughter's name is Gopal Anandini. So Nandini means daughter. So she's the daughter or the friend of all the lotus flowers. She's the daughter of the sun god. But usually we say Banu Nandini, Surya Nandini. But Rupa Goswami said this beautiful bit in a beautiful way. Arbinda Sarvadara Binda Bandhu Nandini. So Ramyatira, very lovely banks. Ramyatira Rambamana Go Kadamba. We talked about Kadamba trees many times, but Kadamba in Sanskrit means group, because the Kadamba flower is not a one flower, group of flowers. But here we're talking about Go Kadamba, groups of cows. Ramyatira Rambamana Go Kadamba Bhushita. Just like we know Baladev Vidya Bhushan. Abhushan means ornaments, jewelry. Just like all the ladies, they too much like to have jewelry. So Jamuna, she's also a lady, she likes jewelry. But what is her jewelry? Groups of red and white and black and yellowish cows wandering on her banks doing Rambamana. You know Rambamana? Rambamana means So this is the decorations, abhushan of Jamuna. Ramyatira Rambamana Gokadamba Bhushita. Divya Ganda Bakadamba Pusparaja Rushita. Again, Kadamba is mentioned now. It means that her banks are covered with Kadamba trees, or we could take it that the Kadamba tree is covered with Kadamba flowers. And Divya, just like we say in English, divine. Ganda means fragrance. This divine fragrance is blowing in all directions. Nandasunu Bhakta Sangam, Sangam Abhinandani. Nandasunu means the son of Nanda Maharaj. Nandasunu Bhakta Sangam. Those who are the devotees of the son of Maharaj. Sangam, to all of them. Because somebody came from here early in the morning to take his bath, someone from over there, some from the other side, some from in front side, some from over here, some from over there, some from behind. They've all the devotees have come in the morning to take their bath. Abhinandani, she's doing their Abhinandan, welcoming all the devotees. So, Nandasunu Bhakta Sangam, Sangam Abhinandani. She's the welcomer of all the devotees. Mam Punatu, may that those blissfully flowing waves of the Jamuna purify our heart. Blissful waves of that daughter of the friend of all the lotus flowers purify our heart. Mam Punatu Sarvadara Binda Bandhu Nandini. So just at what is that got? Way before we get to Yugal Ghat. There's a Yugal Kishore temple out on the Prikama path, but right on the shore there's a Yugal Ghat. So we stop there, and either by rickshaw or by walking we go back to the Krishna Balaram temple. So today we did Bhadravan, we did Bandirvan, and we did Balelvan, 3 forests, and we came back to Vrindavan, 4 forests today out of the 12 forests of Vrindavan. So we'll see you again tomorrow. We hope you all remain safe. How many's out there?
Right now, 91.
91. And we ask again for your prayers for Brajahari Prabhu. Also, Vrindavan is one of your favorite temples in the universe. For almost 2 months now, we haven't had any income whatsoever. So besides, we have our donation button there, but that's for Vrindakun. But if you want, you can go to iskanvrindavan.com and help our temple, because we're completely dependent on pilgrims. There's not a single pilgrim coming for 2 months now. So please, we're serving Krishna Balaram very nicely, and we're serving you. Now your chance to serve Krishna Balaram temple. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.